Inside the terminal, pilot Tom paced anxiously, his thoughts tangled in a web of worry and doubt. The gleaming planes outside seemed to mock him as he replayed the scenario in his mind over and over. What if he's trying to steal the plane? He thought, a sense of urgency prompting him to take drastic action. He had always been passionate about aviation safety, but this situation was spiraling out of control. Instead of taking a moment to observe and reflect, he immediately dialed 911, his heart racing with anxiety. As he relayed his concerns to the dispatcher, Tom's voice trembled slightly. "There's a young boy near the aircraft, and he looks out of place. I'm worried he might be planning something." After hanging up the phone, he tried to reassure himself. "I did the right thing," he muttered, convincing himself that he was protecting aviation safety and the people around him. But deep down, a nagging feeling of doubt began to arise as he waited for the authorities to arrive. Within minutes that felt like hours, the unmistakable sound of sirens filled the air, slicing through the buzz of the airport like a hot knife through butter. Two police officers sprang into action, their badges glinting under the fluorescent lights of the terminal as they moved swiftly toward the scene. Meanwhile, Malik, blissfully unaware of the chaos brewing around him, remained captivated by the aircraft. His dreams of flying were momentarily overshadowed by the sheer wonder of the plane's size and power, completely detached from the narrative unfolding just a few feet away. As the officers approached Malik, the entire atmosphere shifted dramatically. The aura of authority and seriousness that surrounded the police officers transformed Malik's innocent wonder into a confusing whirlwind of emotions. "What's happening? Why are they looking at me like that?" he thought, feeling a knot tighten in his stomach. Their stern expressions and commanding presence felt overwhelmingly intimidating. "Hey kid, what are you doing here?" one officer barked, his voice booming like thunder. Malik's heart raced, and a sense of panic began to seep in as he searched for words. "I was just looking at the plane," he stammered, each syllable dripping with confusion. He gestured toward the aircraft, but the officers remained skeptical, their expressions revealing a cautious disbelief. "Who are you, and why are you here alone?" the second officer pressed, crossing his arms over his chest. The questions felt more like accusations in Malik's ears, amplifying the confusion and fear swirling inside him. "I am just a kid. I love planes," he finally managed to say, his voice barely above a whisper. But the weight of suspicion bore down on him, making him feel small and helpless. The tension in the air was palpable, and as the officers continued their inquiries, Malik felt as though he was standing under a spotlight, exposed and vulnerable. The innocent passion that had driven him to admire the aircraft now morphed into a chilling reality. He was being intensely scrutinized for simply being a young black boy loving something that didn't fit the expectations of those around him. In that moment, Malik became painfully aware of the unfair dynamics at play. The suspicion he faced was not merely about the incident at hand. It was rooted in a deeper societal bias. He saw the shadows of prejudice casting over him, the harsh reality that many children, especially those who looked like him, often unknowingly carried the burden of others' assumptions. The officers, while doing their job, inadvertently transformed a moment of innocent admiration into one of fear and confusion. Malik's self-doubt grew, and he found himself questioning whether his passion for aviation was welcome in a world that sometimes failed to see beyond the color of his skin. It was a heartbreaking reality, one that many children faced, where their love for something pure could be marred by the misconceptions held by others. As Malik stood there, feeling the weight of the world pressing heavily on his young shoulders, the vibrant dreams of flying seemed further away than ever. This incident, sparked by a moment of misplaced fear, would mark a turning point in Malik's life, prompting him to confront the uncomfortable realities of prejudice while still nurturing his dreams. Little did he know, this experience would become a catalyst for change, a stepping stone toward understanding and compassion, both for himself and others who moved through the world as he did. In the days that followed the incident, Kevin felt an overwhelming sense of responsibility to effect change. It wasn't just about his son Malik. It was about every child and parent who had faced similar situations born from bias and misunderstanding. So he took action. Recognizing the airport as a gathering place for the community, he organized a community event dedicated to promoting diversity, inclusion, and the essential values of understanding and compassion. With Malik by his side, the father-son duo prepared to share their story with others. As the day of the event approached, they rehearsed their message, focusing on how assumptions, often based on race or background, could lead to harmful outcomes. Everyone deserves to be treated with respect and fairness, Kevin told Malik, reminding him that their vulnerability could spark crucial conversations. On the day of the event, families, community leaders, and even other passengers gathered in the airport terminal, creating an atmosphere filled with hope and determination. Kevin opened the discussion, emphasizing the importance of facing biases head-on and fostering an environment where children could explore their interests without fear of being judged. He spoke with conviction, sharing the events from just days before as a catalyst for change. Malik, standing confidently next to his father, took a deep breath before sharing his own perspective. I just wanted to see the planes because I love flying. I was scared when the police came, and I didn't understand why they thought I was doing something wrong, he said, his voice steady but tinged with emotion. It shouldn't be like that. I'm just a kid who wants to be a pilot. The audience listened intently, the weight of his words resonating with many parents and young children alike. News of the event spread like wildfire, reaching communities across the country. The incident that had started as a moment of fear and misunderstanding now began to foster hope and dialogue. One notable response came from Tom, the pilot who had initially called the police on Malik. Recognizing his own error and the implications of his actions, he came forward to apologize to Kevin and Malik. In a heartfelt meeting, Tom expressed his regret, admitting that he had let his fear and biases dictate his actions. He explained that he had never imagined the repercussions of his snap judgment. Kevin, showing remarkable grace, listened attentively, allowing Tom to share his perspective. Their conversation opened a door to understanding, highlighting the need for unity in the face of differences. This pivotal dialogue sparked more important conversations in the community and beyond, discussions about race, safety, and the responsibility each individual bore in promoting a sense of belonging. Kevin and Malik's story became a powerful example, illustrating that collaboration and open communication could drive real change in a world often ruled by instinctive fears and stereotypes. The community event culminated in a pledge to foster a more inclusive environment, where every child could dream freely without the weight of prejudice on their shoulders. As Malik continued to pursue his dream of flying, he did so with a renewed sense of self and purpose. The experience had fortified his determination, helping him realize that while there would be obstacles on his journey, there would also be champions, like his father and the community that rallied around them, who believed in the importance of understanding, acceptance, and inclusivity. Malik's aspirations were no longer just a dream. They became a testament to resilience and hope, serving as an inspiration to countless other young dreamers. The day that began with a troubling incident culminated in a movement, igniting discussions that could unify rather than divide people from different backgrounds. Malik stood tall, ready to embark on his journey toward the skies, confident that he could contribute to a world filled with curiosity, respect, and compassion, one where every child could soar to new heights without fear. On that lively afternoon, the airport hummed with life, the air filled with the excitement of travelers and the roar of engines. Malik, a bright and inquisitive 12-year-old, stood captivated by the whirl of activity around him. He had always been a dreamer, his heart drawn to the skies and the massive machines that soared through them. Pilots, with their cool demeanor and authority, enchanted him. He longed to don a pilot's uniform one day, guiding aircraft through the clouds and inspiring others with the thrill of flight. As he wandered closer to a small, parked aircraft, a feeling of exhilaration coursed through him. The sun reflected off the polished exterior of the plane, creating a dazzling display. Malik imagined himself gripping the controls, navigating the vast blue skies. For him, this moment was pure magic, a chance to connect with his dreams. However, not everyone shared his innocent awe. Nearby, a pilot named Tom noticed Malik approaching the aircraft. Instead of seeing a young boy with a dream, Tom's mind was clouded by a narrow perspective colored by stereotypes and fears. With no effort to assess the situation, he felt a prick of suspicion. What if he's trying to steal the plane? He muttered under his breath. His heart raced, not from excitement, but from unfounded concern. The thought was irrational, yet festered within him. In a split-second decision driven by bias, Tom whipped out his phone and dialed 911, his voice laced with urgency. Yes, there's a young boy by the plane. He looks suspicious. I think he might be up to something. Seconds turned into what felt like hours as he waited for a response from the dispatcher, feeling a misplaced sense of righteousness. I'm protecting aviation safety, he reassured himself, oblivious to the harm he was about to cause. Within moments, the wail of sirens filled the air, flashing lights reflecting off the asphalt and casting odd shadows. Malik remained blissfully unaware, still mesmerized by the aircraft, lost in dreams of high-altitude adventures. But when the officers arrived, the atmosphere shifted dramatically. The police approached Malik, their faces stern and serious, creating an aura of intimidation that sent a wave of confusion and anxiety washing over him. "Hey kid, what are you doing here?" One officer barked, drawing nearer. Malik's heart sank, panic beginning to rise as he struggled to comprehend the sudden shift in his day. "I was just looking at the plane," he stammered, overwhelmed by the presence of authority. But the officer's skepticism loomed over him like a dark cloud, amplifying his fears and forcing him into a reality he had never anticipated. For Malik, this experience was startling and humiliating. He was just a boy marveling at a plane, yet here he stood, feeling the weight of suspicion on his young shoulders, an innocent dreamer caught in a web of ignorance and prejudice. In the back of his mind, he couldn't shake the discomfort that came from knowing he was being judged for his skin color and his age. He felt small and misunderstood in a world that should have embraced his curiosity and passion. The incident that unfolded was not just a reflection of Tom's misguided judgment, but a stark reminder of the biases that can easily distort perceptions. Malik's innocent admiration had been misconstrued as a threat, showcasing how fear and prejudice can overshadow humanity. It was a painful lesson, one that would ripple through the community and forever alter the course of Malik's journey toward becoming the pilot he had always dreamed of being. Little did they know, this event would soon draw attention from those who could influence change, sparking conversations about understanding and acceptance, restoring a sense of integrity and unity in the face of misunderstanding. For now, though, Malik's innocent fascination stood eclipsed by the harsh reality of a world that sometimes failed to see beyond the surface. Meanwhile, Malik's father, Kevin, was racing toward the airport, his mind consumed with thoughts of his son. As the FAA administrator, he was often entangled in matters of aviation safety and regulation, commanding respect and authority in the industry. However, today, he was simply a worried father, eager to see his son after a long day at work. But just as he was pulling up to the terminal, his phone buzzed with a frantic call that shook him to his core. "Kevin, there's been a situation at the airport. The police are involved." His friend's voice trembled with urgency, sending a shockwave of panic through Kevin. In an instant, his heart sank, realizing that something was terribly wrong. Any parent could imagine the worst, and he felt the breath catch in his throat. Every nightmare scenario flooded his mind. Was Malik hurt? Had something happened to him? Arriving at the airport, Kevin parked hastily and rushed inside, scanning the terminal with desperate eyes. His heart pounded louder with each step as he searched for his son, anxiety twisting in his stomach. And then he saw them. In a circle near a small aircraft, two police officers surrounded Malik, their body language stiff and authoritative. Kevin's heart dropped into his stomach as he hurried over, adrenaline propelling him forward. "Malik," he shouted, urgency lacing his voice as he approached the scene, his heart racing with both fear and anger. He felt a surge of protectiveness. No one should be confronting his son like that, not when he was just a child filled with wonder and dreams. As he reached Malik, Kevin's expression softened, displaying a concern that was palpable. "What's going on here?" he demanded, glaring at the officers while his voice remained steady. The officers exchanged glances, seemingly taken aback by Kevin's sudden appearance. Upon recognizing him, a key figure in the aviation community, their demeanor shifted. "Sir, we received a call about a disturbance involving your son," one of the officers explained, though guilt crept into his tone as he looked at Malik, who appeared confused and anxious. Kevin knelt down beside Malik, placing a reassuring hand on his shoulder. "This is my son," he said firmly yet calmly, locking eyes with the officers. "There's been a misunderstanding. He was just admiring the airplane." In that moment, the officers began to piece together the gravity of their error. They had responded to bias and perception rather than simply allowing a child to engage in harmless curiosity about aviation. "We're sorry, Mr. Administrator," one officer began, his tone shifting to an apologetic one. "We had concerns based on the call we received." Kevin's heart ached for Malik, who was visibly shaken by the confrontation. "I understand you're doing your job," he said, trying to maintain a level of grace in a tense situation, "but it's alarming that my son was perceived as a threat simply for being a young black boy fascinated by planes." The officers nodded, their expressions shifting from defensive to pensive. Kevin felt the weight of his words settle in the air around them. Malik's wide eyes searched his father's face for reassurance, and Kevin wrapped an arm around him. "It's okay, son. You didn't do anything wrong," he whispered, trying to instill some calm back into Malik's heart. But the incident had already marked Malik with its effects. The innocent wonder he had felt moments before was now overshadowed by confusion and fear. As the officers continued to express their regret, assuring Kevin that such misunderstandings should never occur, Kevin recognized the need for a larger conversation. This experience, while rooted in a personal story, was also indicative of a broader societal issue: the biases that often lead to misunderstanding and unnecessary conflict. Though the immediate situation had been resolved, Kevin knew that it was essential to turn this incident into an opportunity for dialogue and awareness. "I appreciate your apologies," he said, standing tall. "But this isn't just about one misunderstanding. It's about addressing the ingrained assumptions that shape our perceptions." With Malik still by his side, Kevin began to formulate a plan, not just to address this incident, but to begin a larger conversation about safety, inclusivity, and understanding in the aviation world and beyond. As they walked away from the scene, they knew this would not just be a moment in time, but the beginning of a journey toward change, not only for Malik, but for the community which needed to embrace every young dreamer, no matter their background. Once the chaos of the confrontation subsided, Kevin knelt down beside Malik, who was visibly shaken. The look on his son's face tugged at Kevin's heart, his innocent wonder now replaced by fear and confusion. "I'm so sorry you had to go through that, buddy," Kevin said gently, his voice filled with empathy and concern. Malik looked up at him, his wide eyes reflecting a mixture of emotions. "Dad, why would they think I was doing something wrong?" he asked, his voice quivering slightly. Kevin took a deep breath, trying to find the right words to comfort his son while also addressing the harsh reality of the situation. "Sometimes people make assumptions based on what they see, not on who someone really is," he explained softly. "It's not right, but it happens. People often let their fears cloud their judgment." He paused, looking deep into Malik's eyes, hoping to instill strength in the face of adversity. "What's important is that you always stay true to yourself and don't let anyone take away your dreams," he added, a firm but loving emphasis on the last part. That moment of fatherly advice was powerful, not just for Malik, but for everyone who had witnessed the scene unfold. Onlookers had gathered, many of whom were parents themselves, and they absorbed Kevin's words with thoughtful contemplation. It was a poignant reminder that the values of understanding, compassion, and respect should always take precedence over fear and suspicion. While hugging Malik tightly, Kevin noticed a few of the bystanders nodding in agreement, their expressions reflecting a profound realization. The incident had unveiled an uncomfortable truth that persisted in society. It sparked an understanding that biases could easily lead to sensitive situations, especially for young people who were merely trying to explore their passions. Recognizing the opportunity for a pivotal conversation, Kevin decided it was time to turn this negative experience into a teachable moment, not just for Molly, but for the community as a whole. "This doesn't end here," he said, standing up and holding Malik's hand firmly. "We need to talk about this. We need to bring awareness to how we see and treat each other, especially the youth." Later that week, Kevin organized a community event at the airport, inviting families, educators, and community leaders to come together. He wanted to foster dialogue around inclusion, addressing biases and understanding. With Malik by his side, Kevin shared their story, highlighting the unfortunate but all too common experiences that many children face. As he spoke, Kevin could see Malik's confidence growing. The boy, once intimidated and afraid about what had happened, now felt empowered to share his own thoughts. "I just wanted to learn more about planes. I love flying," Malik declared, his passion rushing back as he spoke to the crowd. "I didn't do anything wrong. Kids should feel safe to follow their dreams." The event resonated deeply with the audience. People listened intently, reflecting on their own experiences and biases. There were discussions about how fear could distort perceptions, leading to misunderstandings that could easily spiral out of control. Parents exchanged stories of their own children's encounters with suspicion and judgment, and together, they brainstormed ways to create a more understanding environment. By the end of the event, there was a palpable sense of unity and commitment to change. Kevin understood that this moment had the potential to ripple through the community, fostering compassion and connection. As families departed, they left with a renewed sense of responsibility, not just to each other, but to the children who looked up to them. They recognized that, in order to uplift the next generation, they must confront their own biases and embrace the wonderful diversity that enriches their lives. Kevin knew that while his heartache from the day's events would linger, its lessons would serve as a foundation for growth and change, allowing Malik and many others to chase their dreams freely and unabashedly.